So because she was now a Christian, she got a lot of backlash from her husband. So there was a lot of disputes, a lot of arguments, and even abuse, like physical abuse that she was getting for her faith. But God really had, a plan. And when she became a believer, she separated with her husband. They were still living in the same house, but they slept in different parts of the house. And even the kids were separated as well. So she had 2 daughters at the time. One went with the husband and the other one was with her. And one day they were sleeping and there was this bright light in the house. And she said the daughter that was with her straight away knew that it was God.
Hi guys, Matt here from Frontiers. Welcome back to the Raw Mission podcast. Now, did you know that about 1/3 of the world's population has little or no access to the gospel? No churches, no Bibles, no believers. There are literally millions of people who have no obvious way to find out about Jesus unless someone goes intentionally to live amongst them, to learn their language and culture, and to tell them about our beautiful Saviour, our coming King. And that really bothers us. And we hope that this podcast will encourage you as well to pray for more labourers, to go to places and peoples where the need is greatest. And you never know, you might even become the answer to your own prayers. Well, welcome back, everyone. We're going to get going now with part 2 of the Turkey episode, this short-term experience that only happened a few weeks ago with Luke and Hannah and Remy. And yeah, let's hear now about day 2 in the town that your little group visited. Hannah, what happened next?
So we stayed at that sort of teacher's house that night, and the next morning thought we'd set out and try and find somewhere for breakfast, and we found a cafe that had been recommended to us by the girl who spoke English from the day before. She's actually an English teacher to Turks, and we said, come and join us if you want to at some point. And we spent the morning in the cafe. We met the proprietors and prayed over their business and kind of visited the grounds around it and the little sort of mini mosques, masjids, that's how do you pronounce it? I can't remember.
Yeah, in Urdu we say masjid. Yeah, very similar.
And even prayed in those with them. And spent a couple of hours in there in the cafe. And then she joined us, this girl, and we got quite deep quite quickly, sharing she wanted to hear our testimonies. And she shared about how she had actually come into contact with some, in another city, not too far away, but had come into contact with some believers there and a small fellowship, and had been invited in and had prayed in the name of Jesus, she said, didn't she? Wow. And that had been a really impactful experience for her, and I think she'd carried that with her. So she could see something, I think, of our faith in us that she related to from that experience and wanted to hear our stories of coming to faith. So we shared with her.
She'd been really impacted by the fact that this fellowship had believers from all over the world in, so it wasn't just kind of one nationality or ethnicity it represented. And she said that a lot of the barriers to Christianity or to Jesus, to the kingdom, had been broken down through those relationships, and she'd really enjoyed hearing people's stories of coming to faith in that fellowship, which opened the door for us to be sharing. And it was a good opportunity to practice some of what we'd sort of planned on doing before the trip, being able to share briefly our stories in a way that was quite simple to understand, but also some parables from the Bible. One of our teammates shared really well the story of the lost son and how that kind of represented his story as well.
So we ended up opening the Angel, the Turkish Angel, in the cafe, in the public space, and almost sort of doing a Bible study with her. It's one of those pinch me moments. There were many of them, but like where I was like, how are we possibly doing this? Sitting in this little conservative Turkish village in the middle of nowhere, opening scripture with non-believers and talking about Jesus. Amazing. It was incredible.
That is so cool. And were you using a physical Bible there? Yeah. Okay, because sometimes people just get the phone out and switch languages, and you can do that really easy ways, and no one knows what you're doing. But the fact that she was willing to sit there with the Bible open on the table in public. That's
and
really
she brought
powerful.
Her friend along. Her friend joined for lunch, and her friend joined in the discussions, even though she had much more limited English. So she was very open in that sense and wanting to draw others in.
That's really cool. And the fellowship that she'd previously encountered then, some of those were Turkish. nationals
so.
who'd come to Christ, perhaps,
Yeah,
and some were
and
part of a long-term
Iranians
team that were
and-
working out there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We didn't get all the details
Yeah.
at one
Yeah.
point. Yeah, she asked, "Are you missionaries?"
Yeah,
And
she
we were a
did.
bit like, it's maybe not how we describe ourselves. And so
Yeah.
it's fun to navigate.
But being clear that we were there to pray and to
Yes.
talk to anybody who wanted to talk about
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a kind of, we weren't going undercover. It was just,
Yeah.
how do we phrase this in a way which is helpful? And missionary sometimes isn't.
Yeah, that's right. There are so many different good answers to the same question. I mean, for me in Pakistan, I'd say, well, I'm an English teacher. I teach English at the university, and you can come and see me. I'm not on a missionary visa like some of my friends are, and you can actually be on a missionary visa in Pakistan. So it really depends what you think a missionary is.
Yeah.
And I think Greg, our founder, used to say, "Of course, I'm a missionary.
Yeah.
We're all missionaries. If you believe in the one true God, you guys should be,
Yeah.
Doing the same.
talking about your faith. We should be talking about our faith. It's just part of who we are." Great. So you had that experience on day 2, and then was it fairly soon you met up with the other group?
Yeah, so it was an amazing day, and it culminated with us actually going back to the other police officer's house from the day before. And we had a very special time with him, very open chats with him and his wife, sharing a lot on Christian morality and how that compares to some of his Islamic beliefs, and where there was a lot of overlap there, but also the emphasis on the heart in our faith, and that actually it's not the stuff that goes in that corrupts, but things that come out of the heart. And I think that was quite a helpful conversation. And I mean, we found out the next day that some of that stuff had probably resonated, because he then opened up about some of the sin in his life that had been hidden.
Which we hear is really unusual.
Very unusual,
Yeah. So that, it was really striking. And they gladly took Turkish New Testaments as well. And we heard the next day that his wife had kind of, as we'd gone at about midnight, she'd suddenly opened it up and done quite a lot of Googling of, right, who is Jesus? What's our view meant to be on Jesus?
Wow.
And had started exploring. So
cool.
yeah, really cool. And this is quite an influential family in this town, quite wealthy. So yeah.
It was
Wow, what amazing to go for 2 days and just leave a place where, there are now a few Bibles there, and people have had conversations about Jesus. If they are hungry, if they want to know more, they can now, but they probably would never have thought to explore, search, ask. And if they have a dream, they've probably got some contacts they could even message, one of you.
Yeah.
Can I share about the mosque?
Yeah, please.
Just that in that afternoon, we're rapidly realising that at the prayer side, the prayer element of this trip has been, I guess, been overrun by how much conversation and evangelism we've been able to do. And that was actually a wonderful thing. But also trying to keep to, when we've got those moments, how can we pray for the town? And at this point, it was just me and our translator. She's also a woman. And so the two of us kind of went together with this Turkish girl and her friend. The lads went off to go get a haircut and to kind of just, I don't know, chat men stuff.
Proper Turkish haircut, lots of burning of your ears and things.
Yeah, proper cultural experience. And we said to this girl and her friend, we want to prayer walk around the town still. Is that okay? She said, yeah, we'll join you. And so they actually and we'll take you some places to pray. And the first place that they took us to was the biggest mosque in the middle of the town. And I was like, this is amazing. But I don't have anything to cover my head with. Translator didn't have either. So the two of us we asked, could we go in anyway? And the guy on the door, he was just the carpet cleaner for the mosque, the most lovely old guy, all these, these lines of life on his face, but these smiling eyes. And he said, yeah, come in. So take our shoes off, and we went in uncovered as women, unchaperoned, and knelt in the middle of this mosque and prayed that Jesus would break into lives there. Another pinch me moment where I was like, I can't believe we've had this opportunity. And it felt really significant. And we prayed for the man himself as we left as well.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Wow. I love that. And what was it like for you, Hannah? Because in some Muslim countries, the women will all wear head coverings. Some will wear, niqabs, which cover everything but the eyes and so on. But what's Turkey like for those who haven't been there?
Yeah. My experience was obviously that we want to be culturally sensitive and appropriate. So dressing that way, which maybe is the one thing that felt slightly different to being back home in terms of maybe how we want to express ourselves. But it was, for me, that wasn't something that bothered me. Covering the head when you go into the mosque, which is, again, just something to show respect.
But outside the mosque, it wasn't an issue. You didn't need to cover your heads.
At all. So we're talking long skirts and covering shoulders.
Okay.
And even some of the people in the town were dressing quite Western. The girls in jeans and t-shirts and things like that. And our interactions with women were fantastic. They were just so happy to see us. Really wanting to engage in conversation. Very hospitable. Really kind. I didn't feel at all. I don't know, boxed in.
And it sounds like even when you went into some family homes, sometimes the families will stay together. Whereas when Remy was in his town, they separated the men and women quite quickly, and that is very typical in Pakistan.
Yeah.
But it sounds like in your town, it wasn't such a big deal.
Yeah, Turkey seems to be kind of a clash of cultures. You've got this Western influence, and a lot of the young people are in tight, skinny jeans and like not looking particularly sort of what you'd imagine they'd be wearing. But then you've got the more conservative older generation generally. Quite a mix, and I think there's kind of space for different approaches, different types of people to be there.
Great. Okay, Remy, pick up the story perhaps as to when you next saw these guys then and their group.
So I think where I left off was where we got on that van, got in the van.
Oh yeah.
And then we were traveling and got to the hotel. Was able to give the young guy the Angel, which is amazing. Prayed for him. Really prayed that God will, just like he would encounter Jesus. And then we waited. The next day was when we met with the other team. And oh gosh, it was so good.
We survived.
We survived. That thing of like meeting believers, and one thing that we haven't mentioned was whilst we're having this amazing experience in Turkey, we were also reading Acts, and reading some passages in Acts, and it was so good to see a lot of what we were reading in Acts just come to life, and that when we met the other group, it was like, seeing those believers, maybe meeting Peter for the first time after he's just come out of jail or something.
Yeah.
Felt like it had been years.
Wow. You survived. Like, we've been praying for you. They were praying for us as well whilst we were having that heated conversation, and we managed to text them, and they prayed, and we prayed for them as well. So just meeting again, it was all hugs and smiles, and
that's cool.
Checking if there's any bullet holes on someone else. But it was really good, and then we just we shared. Naturally you just start to share what happened, and we worshipped, and it was we prayed as well, and then from where we were, our next stop was to meet some believers that were in Turkey, and so we had this long bus journey, which was really, really good. So we met this lady who is a believer in that in the same sort of region, and she's been there for a while now in that same place, and she has a fellowship of about numbers in its 20s,
and they're all from a Muslim background.
Yes, nearly all of them.
They're all locals then.
Yes, they're all locals. I actually met her last time that I went on the trip.
Oh yeah, a few years ago.
Yeah, and so that time I got to hear her testimony, but she got to share again with a much bigger group this time. And last time I just went with it was only 4 of us, but this time it was a mixture of boys and girls. And
what are the highlights of her testimony?
Oh man, she had everything.
How long have you got?
How long? She had everything in there, and she definitely needs to write a book, because it was really, really
just
impactful.
Try and give us a few.
Some of the highlights is she got God. She definitely she could see that God had a hand on her right from birth. She was given this gift of being able to kind of know the future. So she'll have dreams or visions about what was to come, and then also she had a really hard time when she was younger, because she was definitely seeking God, and she would go to the imams over there and ask them questions that they just couldn't explain, and they would say to her, you're a pure soul, she said, and she knew herself. She knew that she wasn't pure, just because she was having these visions. She knew she wasn't pure. So she found God in the most supernatural way. She had a vision, and she was told to go to a certain place, certain town, and out of like blind faith, she just went there. And,
wow.
and
so
God
many things lined up.
Things are just lining up, and she struggled with obeying this voice she heard.
Yeah.
And she was scared, and she gave excuses for why she couldn't go to where the voice was saying for her to go, and eventually things were just lining up that it was so obvious she had to go. And then she ended up basically going into a basement of a sort of a cafe or store, and she found an underground church.
Wow.
And they were able to pray for her, and she explained sort of what God was doing in her life. She had this story about her kids at the same time where she was experiencing this. It was so evident as well for her whole family were experiencing the same thing. And it was so clear that God wanted to reach not only her, but her family and, the wider family as well. So because she was now a Christian, she got a lot of backlash from her husband. So there was a lot of disputes, a lot of arguments, and even abuse, like physical abuse that she was getting for her faith. But God really had, a plan. And when she became a believer, she separated with her husband. They were still living in the same house, but they slept in different parts of the house, and even the kids were separated as well. So she had two kids, two daughters at the time. One went with the husband, and the other one was with her. And one day, they were sleeping, and there was this bright light in the house, and she said the daughter that was with her straight away knew that it was God. But in the other side of the house, where the husband was, he kind of woke up and was signaled to his daughter, go turn off the light in the room. It's keeping me up. And the daughter had seen that it wasn't a light that was coming from any bulb in the room. And so out of respect, she goes over to the switch and she flicks it off, and the light doesn't turn off. And so she wakes her dad up, and he wakes up to this light, and it just couldn't go. It just didn't go. And so that was a massive thing that hit him. And I think she said that he woke up the next morning and was like, your God came to visit us yesterday.
Wow.
So there's stories.
And they came to faith off that, didn't they?
Yeah, he came to faith after that. Yeah.
And the daughters.
Yeah, the daughters
as well.
Yeah,
the daughters as well. And there was the other story as well where they're on a bus going to some other location, and the road is one of those that's like butted next to a cliff. And just one vehicle could go past this road, and it was snowing, and they're driving through. It's dark, and they see this light in the distance, and so the driver assumes that it's another vehicle.
Yeah.
And so he's horning, he's like pressing the horn, that it doesn't shift. This light just keeps coming towards them, and it gets so close that they close their eyes, and we're expecting a collision, but nothing happened. They opened their eyes, and this light had disappeared. And so they went onto their journey, came back and checked, because the expectation was that whatever vehicle was in front of them would have tipped over and fallen into the snow. But there was no print on the snow. There was nothing there at all.
If you're enjoying this podcast, why not give us a 5-star rating so that more folks can hear these inspiring stories and join us in praying, sending, giving and going? Or how about inviting me or one of my colleagues to speak at your church? I'd love to hear from you. Email me on matt@frontiers.org.uk. And now back to the podcast.
And it gets so close that they close their eyes, and we're expecting a collision, but nothing happened. They opened their eyes, and this light had disappeared. And so they went onto their journey, came back and checked, because the expectation was that whatever vehicle was in front of them would have tipped over and fallen into the snow. But there was no print on the snow. There was nothing there at all. So it seemed like light was a big thing in her testimony. So yeah, it was amazing to meet her, and we just got to encourage the believers that we saw there. And do you guys remember that moment we had after we just ate, and one of the other people from the fellowship she was sharing, how amazing it was to meet believers from another country come, and there was just like this oneness, that we had,
because they probably feel so isolated as a little group there.
Yeah.
Such a minority in that little town or village, wherever they live.
A couple dozen, and they're not even all kind of happy to meet together. Like, there's a lot of fear.
It's scary.
To meet other believers is huge encouragement for them, I think.
Wow.
It was great, and we got to pray as well for a lady that had just come to faith. And then there was another couple that was seeking as well, and
they were she described them as being on the edge of faith, and they wanted us to lay hands on them and pray. Not entirely sure everything that went on with them in that moment, but it was really special. Just to see everyone from different cultures just in the same room, one praying with one another, worshiping. I mean, we had Turkish songs that we learned some Turkish songs.
We learned as well.
Very simple.
So, we got to sing it all together. So it was so beautiful. It was so good.
Wow, you must have. You can imagine the New Testament letters being written where Paul's writing to someone saying, "Your visit encouraged the hearts of the saints," and
how much it encouraged us. Like, we just take for granted how easy it is to live out our faith here in this country, and for them to be constantly facing persecution or fear that somebody might turn around and do something, and to struggle with the highs and lows of life and faith without having a big body to go to every time, body of believers, or necessarily a pastor nearby or whatever. It's just a whole different dynamic, and I think we were really humbled.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And also, I think from what I've heard about this lady, she's, they're not just hunkered down and hiding. She's visible. They have a visible presence in their town, and she wants to share the gospel around the area.
She'll go village to village.
She's not content just to grab the pearl of great price that she's found and hide it, but she wants to tell everyone.
And she's saying, look, the harvest is plentiful here. We just need workers. We just need people to come. She's like overwhelmed with how much opportunity there is to share, particularly with the younger folk. This
lady's daughter is a school teacher, secondary school teacher, and invited us to spend a couple of hours hanging out at the high school with the kids, and I guess practicing English, but just getting to socialize with them and spend time with them, which we did. And we spent a couple of hours in the sun playing volleyball and drinking chai and actually just hanging around. And they all got their cigarettes out, these sort of 16, 15-year-olds just kind of smoking and hanging out after the end of the school day. And just kind of in groups chatting with us and playing some games. And then those of us in the group that spoke Turkish, so our two translators basically, were the main ones holding down conversations about faith that they didn't necessarily instigate, but they dropped hints at the reason why we were there, and learnt that there was a lot of hunger in these kids, who were then like pressing them for questions and gathering round and asking for more information.
So what I remember, one of the young girls was asking, look, if there's grace, like, surely I can just do whatever I want.
Wow.
Like, and what's all of that about? And so presented a great opportunity to share the gospel with her. Others saying, look, I know, we're all Muslims around here, but I'm not really about that. And just kind of expressing what we'd heard about this move to deism, and sort of not a total rejection of God, but a rejection of organized religion in the way that they knew it. And so, a couple of our guys just had a field day just answering questions and sharing, and just in a really like open, amazing way.
That's great.
Yeah, we were impressed as well with the daughter who, really took a massive risk, to allow us to share so much with with her students. That risk kind of it there was something that came out of it. So we heard, I think a day later, that she had lost her job because we came and spoke. I think it was, the news spread from the kids to the parents, and they were a bit worried, that their kids were being indoctrinated and all this kind of stuff. And so they came to the school, and they had to let her go. So when we heard that, you can imagine, I think we were on our journey back to
the airport. When we heard about it.
Yeah, when we heard it, and again, just seeing how when the gospel goes into a place, the backlash and the persecution in some ways, and and how to just be ready for that. And so we just prayed, and her response, because she messaged one of the guys in the group.
It was beautiful.
It was so encouraging. She wasn't bitter. Bearing in mind that Turkey at the moment, at the time, is going through a really hard time. It's hard to find jobs. And she said it was a miracle that she found that job there. So, but she was so encouraged. She said, "Thank you so much for sharing, your faith with these kids. I'm glad that seeds have been sowed.
Even though I've just lost my job.
Even though I've just lost my job." And,
and I'm praying for that. She said, "I'm praying for the families of the kids that have come in."
Some of us were in tears, honestly. I mean, I did shed some tears. So we just prayed. We just prayed that God will have his way, and that there would be, she will be supported, and that, his will be done. And I think when we finally landed back in England, we heard that she got her job back. Which was
amazing.
So a bit of a warning sign, I think, for her, but just incredible.
It was, because there was a real sting to it for us as we left. We thought, we did feel a little bit like, we've just come in.
Is this our fault? Have we
shared the gospel? We've been faithful.
Yeah.
Have we overstepped the mark? And have we left her now in a situation that she has to deal with that we can't help her with? And
or put the fellowship at risk.
Or exactly. Yes. But I think she was very careful to reassure us that, she was grateful for the work that we'd done. And then we were faithful in prayer. And to see God kind of bring something so beautiful out of that is to allow her to keep her job, and I presume she has to keep it under the radar a little bit now, but that was a really gracious thing, and really showed us that prayer is amazing, and that there's more to come out of that story than we'll ever know.
And she was able to share with one of the kids a film about Jesus, because the kid had asked, like, where can I find out more? And so there was a sense that although there was opposition, there was a real kind of open door for the gospel in these young people, which is amazing. And it was a wrestle for us as we were heading home, because we knew we were going home to relative comfort and wouldn't struggle to pay the bills, and had our needs met, and so there was that temptation to feel regret at sharing, but then we were like, actually, we probably got this wrong. Like, we should feel almost regret that we don't have many opportunities in our country to suffer for the gospel. And actually, it's, although like there's real needs, and we needed to pray for her, and she had a young kid to look after. Actually, how glorious to participate in Christ's sufferings in that way, to be hated by the world. And so I think it was a helpful reminder for us not to feel sorry for her, but also to look kind of inwardly, and
especially when she's not feeling sorry for herself.
That's
and
true.
We can so easily project our own comfort and security idols onto them, thinking, oh no, we've just made them uncomfortable. Well, she wasn't asking you to come and make them comfortable. She was asking you to come and help them share boldly around the region. So
I love the way you said that, actually, that it's a reminder to us that we can almost desire suffering for the sake of the gospel, because it brings God glory. That's
good. Really good. Wow. So that's fantastic. Really good stories, guys. And as you look back, any personal takeaways in terms of, this was for some of you, many of you on the trip, actually, your first experience of the Muslim world. What about in your own journey, your own walk with the Lord? understanding of yourself, future thinking, any impact that this short-term trip has had on you? Because some people say, hit and run missions, bit of a waste of time, whatever you're achieving on the ground. But there is that element of what's going on in your lives. So can you speak into some of that?
Yeah, I found that there's this sort of juggling act that we need to keep as believers of looking at our local area, wherever we're from in England, but also having a reach somewhere else, and just seeing how the commission that Jesus gave us is not just to where you are right now, but also to the ends of the earth. And so I just came back with a bigger, better understanding of what my role was as a disciple, as a believer, and how important it is to see God's kingdom advance in places where there's no churches, there's no gospel, no believers, and no Bibles. And it was really encouraging to me to also just persevere, because you come back and you think, gosh, what do I actually deal with over here? No one is really challenging my faith, and I'm not in fear that someone's gonna arrest me or anything like that. So it's just really encouraging to know that there's room to grow and room to be bold as well. Boldness was massive. It was a massive thing to think about.
Yeah, hopefully that spills over into our lives here on the streets too, that we can be more bold in our environment here, because we've tasted something of the goodness of that in another location. And like you say, you come back and hopefully you're sharing these stories with your church, and they're thinking, yes, actually, we are called to this, all of us. And whether we're prayers, givers, senders, goers, this is what the church has been called to. We're called to a spiritual battle. We're called to share the good news to the ends of the earth. So that's, hopefully the impact in your lives personally and spilling over into the UK church, will be huge.
I remember you were saying it's basically a crash course in discipleship.
Oh, yes.
You were like, we need to get all kind of disciples, believers, like over to these sorts of places, and partly just because of what it does in us, in our walk with God.
Yeah, that's good.
And it doesn't have to be as extreme as like what we've done. There are so many different ways of doing short-term trips.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you want to mention the North Africa trip that we often do?
Yeah, we take groups out to North Africa fairly regularly, again, to pray. And it's something the team believe is part of their team life, is to have people come in and to pray for the people groups that they're trying to reach. So that's much more of a guided tour, I suppose, style trip. And a member of the team is there with the visiting prayer group pretty much the whole way through and showing them around. So a slightly less
and you meet long-term workers, and you meet MBBs or Muslim background believers. Great. Okay, any other takeaways personally?
For me, I think as someone that's generally very planned, it was refreshing to go into a place with no idea of what was going to happen, and to see how God comes through in those situations where you leave room of uncertainty. And probably haven't quite worked out how to apply that to my life here, but definitely want to go on that journey of leaving space, being less structured sometimes. And I think trusting God that he'll provide as well when I can't see everything, where I haven't engineered everything to work perfectly. So that was a real challenge. I was joking afterwards that I was healed of my kind of the J on the Myers-Briggs, being like super structured and planned, because this trip was one for the P's.
Luke was the one who brought the map out at the beginning. It's like, right, guys, let's have a plan of where we're going to go.
Which just wasn't touched.
Rip the map up after about 20 minutes. Just follow the crowds.
So for me, that was one. I think the second was actually, I went with an appreciation that short-term trips can really inspire and mobilize the group going, and maybe aren't that impactful on the ground. But actually this showed me that no, they can still be, they can carry a real weight on the ground. Like there are now Turkish New Testaments in these towns that weren't there before, that are potentially being read. There's kind of an access point to the gospel for people. A lot of these people now know believers and have their contact details and things like that. So part of the plan all the way along is to inform the longer term team in that region, what we saw, who we encountered, and whether there were any kind of open doors to follow up on. So we've kind of passed on the necessary contacts.
That's really important, isn't it? Because the connection of impact on the ground plus what's going on in your own life. Now, you and some of the others on the trip are considering maybe the Lord's calling you to go long-term overseas one day. Did that stir that up in you a bit more, give you more of a realistic picture of what that could look like?
Yeah, I think it really excited me about team working well together and seeing different giftings. Like as a big group, we all just got on so well, but also were quite different. And so, seeing that there would have been that healthy tension between different personalities, but also a really kind of glorious picture of the church working together in its diversity. And so, everyone kind of using their God-given giftings for his glory. And so, I just got really excited about recruiting team and building team together and what that might look like. And it was really fun doing this trip with others who are kind of on that journey too and are asking those questions of, God, what are you calling me to?
Yeah, it does shape you, doesn't it, in terms of like learning how to be in a team. And you mentioned it was great how we gelled, but it wasn't that it was easy. There were situations where it's like, okay, you've got to sort of be patient, and you've got to be more aware of this person's different character, and so these things are so important. When you have a mission, a unified mission, it's important to know how you work within a team.
And actually trust as well, because you're in some unsettling situations there. Some that you've mentioned, and you've got to trust your leaders. You might be thinking, I want out now, but hang on, okay, the leader feels like this is okay. We can stick with this for a bit more. And you're just, everything inside you think, I'm losing control here. This is not, but actually, okay.
And learn to communicate well with each other. There are points when we actually, we then took time to like touch base with each other and say, are we all comfortable going ahead with this plan or with this, invitation? And how's everyone doing? And I think that was really valuable.
That's good leadership too, because we
really tested that communication thing with and trust thing when we were with that guy, the dad in that heated conversation. And there had to be non-verbal communications going on between us, because you don't want to do anything that would just shake him up. And so just the look and and just kind of raise eyebrow and like you said, trust in the leader. And we had to just be calm and just wait on him to give us the next sort of instruction on what to do. It's definitely a team building exercise that you can take with you into any sort of situation. It's good.
Brilliant. So if there are people listening out there, I want to encourage you all, think about it. You might have a group of friends, you might have some friends from your Christian union at university, or perhaps from your church, and you think, we could do something. We could give a week in the summer or at Easter to do a trip like this. Then just get in touch with us. We'd love to help you think about how you could do a prayer trip like this, whether into North Africa or Turkey. Just let us know. These are easy things for us actually to work out and make happen.
I think for me, one of the main things to come out of this, there were two, but one was I was really surprised at the visibility of Jesus in our group. And I think we talk about it a lot as the church. We pray that non-believers would see in us something of Jesus at work, and that it would be visible. And we had multiple comments, didn't we, Luke, from when we were in our town, of these guys, there's something different about them. They're really honest. They're really God-fearing. They pray a lot. It's and they were almost bragging about us to each other in what they noticed. And we did try to break that down a bit and say, we are only human, please, but this is what Jesus has done in our lives. And I was really taken aback that when we're unified and we're relying on the Spirit and we're being the body of Christ, that is tangible. I was blown away by that, really. It was a really encouraging reminder.
Yeah, it really brings to life that verse where Jesus says, they will know that that God sent me by the way you love one another. I think that's the way it goes, right? So yeah, it really, really just shows that oneness that we have. Actually speaking to the dad, you could see how much disconnection there was between maybe the Turkish people and, you know, the Kurds, and there really is this kind of sense of, you know, everyone is against me, you know, and there isn't much unity. And so I think them looking at us and seeing how, you know, we're different and we really know how to love on one another was such a real testament to the love of God, love of Jesus in us. So
that's powerful.
Yeah, and I say that for the glory of God. You know, it's like He is doing something in us, and it is shining out, and let it be known for His name's sake.
Yeah,
nothing
definitely.
of ourselves. We didn't want that to come across, but just that He was glorified.
No, that's brilliant. Let your light so shine that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father who is in heaven. That's the dream. That's what we want to happen on these trips, whether it's by praying for someone or speaking with someone or just serving people. That's brilliant. Maybe we can just conclude with the leader of the trip loves to describe these Turkey trips as a mixture of Ocean's 11, the Acts of the Apostles, and the Kardashians. It's crazy, but you might think, what has that? But the Kardashians, because you've got police escorts with you, you got people taking selfies with you all the time. You get that kind of on the stage, people watching you all the time. You got Ocean's 11 because you're in little hotel rooms, kind of planning and preparing, and for you guys, of course, praying for what's coming up and your trips. And then the third theme, of course, the Acts of the Apostles. You're seeing it come to life in front of you. So there's a great plug for these Turkey trips. If anyone's interested and you want those kind of crazy adventures, definitely get in touch with us. Well, guys, thanks so much for being with me today. It's been brilliant to hear all your different stories, your different experiences of this short-term trip. And thanks to our listeners out there, regular subscribers, regular listeners, and those maybe who are joining for the first time. Do give feedback, do send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And do pass on the word about this podcast if you're enjoying it. God bless, guys. Bye.